who you are and your story a little bit, and then I'd like to get immediately your reaction to the debate last night.
Perfect. So I'm Boris Epshteyn. Hi, everybody. I'm originally actually from Moscow, Russia. No, I'm not a spy. All of you Democrats, all the triggered libs, you could sit down and relax. My family came here in the early 90s. We're Jewish refugees, Jenny. We witnessed the hate that comes with a fall of a socialist communist government, the rubble of post-communist, post-socialist Soviet Union. My family came here to the greatest country on earth in 1993 as Jewish refugees. I ended up growing up in the Princeton area. I went to college at Georgetown undergrad, then I went at the School of Foreign Service, went to Georgetown Law, and then was practicing law in New York on Wall Street at Milbank Tweed Hadley McCloy when I first got involved in politics. And I was on the McCain campaign in DC and in Alaska when Governor Palin was named as the VP nominee. I was a surrogate for the Romney campaign, and then I got on the Trump train early, and I went from being a supporter to a surrogate to a senior advisor overseeing surrogate messaging on the 2016 campaign. Never backed another candidate in 2016, or had been with President Trump from the beginning. And then I was a communications director for the inaugural, assistant communications director at the White House, then left and went into a private industry, was with Sinclair Broadcast Group as their chief political commentator. And now I'm the strategic advisor on the Trump 2020 campaign. And I'm proud to do that. And I'm also the co-chair for Jewish Voices for Trump, which is our Jewish coalition here internal to the campaign.
Right. And I definitely want to get all of the Jewish voter outreach initiatives you're working on as part of that. First, I'd like to get your reaction to the debate last night, and maybe if you could comment as well. It seems that the media has completely focused today on President Trump and saying that he will not condemn white supremacists. And we know that white supremacists are not exactly friendly to the Jewish people and to even the American people. Could you just clarify President Trump's stance on that and the campaign's stance on that?
Well, it was actually clear as day. President Trump did condemn white supremacists. When Chris Wallace asked him that, as part of asking whether Joe Biden condemned Antifa, Chris Wallace ended up asking President Trump if he condemns white supremacists, and he said yes. He said sure. And then Joe Biden jumped in with his mumbo jumbo, and really didn't know what day it was, I guess, Biden. And then even specifically to the Proud Boys, President Trump said, stand back. So it's pretty clear where President Trump stands. It's absolutely clear where he stands. He's been clear on it for a long time now, going back to the Jake Tapper interview and denouncing David Duke and so on and so forth. President Trump has been clear that he denounces white supremacists, and he did that also in the speech about Charlottesville that the left likes to lie about so much, including Joe Biden, who lies about it all the time. The president condemned white supremacists then. So, I'm Jewish, and I'm proud to work for this president who's done so much to combat anti-Semitism, signed the Never Again Holocaust Education Act into law, which gave $10 million toward Holocaust education in this country, signed the JUST Act into law, which makes it easier for victims of the Holocaust and their descendants to receive restitution, and then signed an executive order which absolutely classified anti-Semitism as a hate crime and enabled the federal government, federal agencies to use their full resources to combat anti-Semitism. And not just domestically. He's done so much on an international front in terms of standing with the state of Israel, moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, something that president after president had promised, tearing up the terrible Iran deal, then recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, recognizing the Golan Heights as Israeli territory, and then the historic Abraham Accords, which President Trump, together with his team of Jared Kushner, Avi Berkowitz, and Ambassador David Friedman and others got done. So the president has had so many achievements for the Jewish people, for the state of Israel. To call him anything but a champion of the Jewish people in the state of Israel is an absolute joke and total nonsense.
Right. And I think to your point about the Middle East peace deals, those are historic. And I don't think that was emphasized enough, or has been emphasized enough in the media, it seems. I can tell you, as a Jewish person, I never thought I would be able to step foot in some of these countries, if I had an Israeli stamp in my passport. So it's really historic. And I mean, do you see other countries jumping on board? It seems like there's talks of maybe Saudi Arabia, Oman. What can you tell us about that?
Well, first of all, you're right. The Abraham Accords were so historic. In 1978, at the Camp David Accords were between Israel and Egypt. That was national security based. 1994 Accords between Israel and Jordan, also national security based. These Abraham Accords, first of all, never before have two major Arab countries faced themselves toward Israel before. That's a first. But also, this is a warm peace, a peace that includes within itself financial relationships, travel, tourism relationships, infrastructure relationships. And today, if you go to UAE, or you go to Abu Dhabi, you can get a kosher meal, maybe even easier than get a kosher meal in Washington, D.C. And that really means something. That means a lot for Jewish people like you and I, Jewish Americans like you and I. So you're totally right. And in terms of the future, I'm confident that with 4 more years of President Trump, with more leadership from him, Jared Kushner, Avi Berkowitz, David Friedman, and others, other countries in the Arab world are going to come on board, are going to sign more peace deals with Israel, because they see that Israel is the beacon of freedom, the beacon of business opportunity in the Middle East, while Iran is the beacon of terrorism, and nobody wants to be dealing with that.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because it seems like
I'm a pretty interesting guy, Jenny. See, I try to keep it interesting.
Perfect. This will be a great interview then. So it looks like, with the normal trend that Jews tend to vote Democrat, that right now the polling is in favor of Biden. When it comes to Jewish voters, it seems like maybe about 30% of Jews are siding with Trump in the election, or say they will vote for him. Can you tell us exactly your response to the Biden campaign's initiative for the Jewish American community? I've seen their plan. There are some really enticing things for people, who support Israel, who tend to vote Republican. For example, that Biden, his campaign says that he will not support BDS. Could you react to that and some of his stances on Jewish issues?
Well, Biden's a joke and Biden's a liar. In terms of not supporting BDS, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez plays a major role with Joe Biden as an advisor to him and to his campaign, and she failed to attend an anniversary of the murder of Itzhak Rabin recently, and that was held by a leftist organization. And J Street, I think, was either supportive or participatory in that event. So, and J Street is not pro-Israel. By the way, meeting with J Street means you're against Israel. J Street is a fringe organization that stands against the long-term prosperity and security of the state of Israel. And there's no two ways about that. So in terms of where Joe Biden and his sad team of Aaron Kiak and Doug Emhoff, whose only qualification, I guess, is being Kamala Harris's husband, in terms of where they stand, it's clear. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris met with Jacob Blake Sr. He's an anti-Semite. He is a supporter of Louis Farrakhan, who calls people like you and me termites. They had Louis Farrakhan. They had Linda Sarsour speaking at their Democrat National Convention. She's another pal of Louis Farrakhan's. He says he's not anti-Semite, he's anti-termite, which means he wants to terminate people like you and me. So that is where the left is. That's where Joe Biden is. And if you need to go and look at the history of Joe Biden and Israel, all you have to do is look at 8 years of President Obama's presidency. And Prime Minister Netanyahu clearly said that those were dark days in the relationship between the United States and the state of Israel. President Obama and Joe Biden treated Iran better than they treated Israel. We cannot go back to that. Jewish Americans cannot trust Joe Biden. And by the way, since when is not supporting BDS some sort of line in the sand? BDS is an anti-Semitic movement. So that shouldn't be something that Joe Biden even has to say, but he does, and it's a lie because his people, the people who will be controlling him, the puppet masters behind Joe Biden, do support BDS. They are anti-Semites, and Joe Biden is no friend to Jews or the state of Israel. Just a couple of days ago, he compared President Trump ludicrously to Joseph Goebbels. What was that? That was demeaning of the Holocaust. And Aaron Kiak, again, his very sad head of Jewish outreach, first liked a tweet that likened President Trump to Nazis, then unliked it. What does that mean? It means he's spinning. He was all over the place. And I've challenged Aaron Kiek. I'm the point person of Jewish outreach here at the Trump campaign. And I've challenged Aaron Kiek and his 3,000 Twitter followers, compared to mine about 55,000, just for the record, to a debate anywhere, anytime, any place with any moderator. Jenny, if you want to moderate, you can moderate anybody who's willing to moderate. I'll take them. Even leftist shills like Ram Campayas from the JTA. Anybody who wants to moderate, I'm open to it. Aaron Kiek better come out of hiding and debate me on the clear contrast between President Trump fighting against anti-Semitism and standing for the state of Israel, and Joe Biden being pro-anti-Semitism and pro-Iran.
Okay, I will reach out to Aaron Kiek personally for you, and I will see if he wants to debate you. But
you know Aaron?
I do not know him, but I'm happy to ask him. I think
he seems very scared.
Okay, well, I'm happy.
Well, not to be afraid. I'll be nice enough.
There you go. There you go. If there's anything you want to add, any kind of analysis of any shifts you're seeing in the Jewish vote right now, anything like that you'd like to add?
Absolutely. You mentioned the polling. You said that about 30% of Jewish Americans support President Trump right now. By the way, I believe there's a hidden Trump voter in those numbers as well. I think that there was another poll done, and the Jewish people said that 44% of their friends support President Trump, which usually, when the pollsters ask the question that way, that is what people really believe themselves, but they don't want to say it. But let's assume the number is what it is. It's 30. That's 5% higher than President Trump got 4 years ago in 2016. And Joe Biden, 67% approval and 67% support in that same poll is much lower than Hillary Clinton got in 2016 from Jewish Americans. And it would be, if that held on Election Day, would be the lowest Jewish American support for a Democrat since Michael Dukakis in 1988. And we all know how that turned out for the Democrats.
Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.